I want to talk about something that takes more courage than starting for the first time. Trying again. Starting for the first time is exciting. There is hope, there is energy, there is the fresh feeling of a new beginning with no failures yet attached to it. But trying again, after stopping, after failing, after the disappointment of a previous attempt that did not go the way you hoped, that requires something different. That requires courage. Because trying again means accepting the possibility of stopping again, of failing again, of going through the same disappointment one more time. And that possibility, the risk of repeating the pain, is exactly what stops most people from trying again. They protect themselves from the risk by not trying, by deciding quietly, privately, that the attempt was enough, that they gave it a chance and it did not work. And that is simply how it is. But here is what the courage to try again produces. Every time you try again, you are not starting from where you started before. You are starting from where you stopped, with the experience of the previous attempt inside you, with the knowledge of what went wrong, with the understanding of yourself as a learner that only comes from having actually tried. Trying again is not weakness. It is one of the most powerful things a person can do. Today's story is about a young man named Danny. Danny had stopped. He had decided firmly, privately, that the stopping was final, until one ordinary moment made him try again, and everything that followed surprised him. This is his story. Meet Danny. Danny was 25 years old. He worked at a small logistics company, processing shipment requests, updating tracking systems, coordinating between drivers and clients. He was reliable. His colleagues liked him. His manager rarely had to follow up with him because Danny followed up with himself. He had stopped learning English 11 months ago. Not suddenly, gradually. Session by session, the studying had become less frequent, less focused, less motivated, until one week there was no session at all, and then another week, and then the course was still open in his browser, but he was not opening it anymore. He had studied for 7 months before that. Genuine effort, real progress. And then a conversation that had gone wrong. A brief exchange with a foreign visitor to his company's warehouse. The visitor had asked a simple question. Danny had understood it. He had formed the answer in his head, clear, complete, correct. And then, when he had tried to speak it, nothing came out right. He had stumbled, lost the sentence, said something that was barely comprehensible. The visitor had smiled politely and turned to someone else. Danny had felt the heat in his face, and after that evening, he had not gone back to the course, because going back meant trying again, and trying again meant the possibility of that feeling returning. 11 months had passed. He had not studied once. Until the morning he was cleaning out an old drawer and found his English notebook. The notebook. He almost put it back in the drawer. He stood with it for a moment. He opened it. The first page, vocabulary from 7 months of studying, words he had learned and practiced, sentences he had written, notes he had made in his own handwriting. He flipped through slowly. The early pages, basic. The middle pages, more complex. The last few pages, genuinely good. Clear sentences, nuanced vocabulary, evidence of someone who had been genuinely building something. He looked at the last entry. It was dated 11 months ago, the day before the warehouse conversation. He thought about the person who had written that last entry, the person who had not yet had the difficult conversation, who had been building steadily without knowing that the next day something would make him stop. He thought about what that person had built, 7 months of it, right there in the notebook. It had not disappeared. It was still in him somewhere, quieter than it had been. 11 months of silence had made it quieter, but not gone. He sat at his desk. He opened the course, not with excitement, not with the fresh energy of a new beginning, with something quieter, something more deliberate. He pressed play on a lesson. Daily English sentences. Repeat after me. I find the notebook. I open it. I remember what I built. The stopping did not erase the progress. It is still here. I press play, not with excitement, with quiet courage, Trying again requires more courage than starting. I have it. 11 months quiet. The English is still there. I find it again. One difficult conversation does not undo 7 months of work. The notebook shows me who I was becoming. I continue that journey. Lesson 1. What the stopping had cost and what it had not. That evening after his first session back, Danny thought about 11 months. He had lost momentum. That was real. Things he had known fluently were rusty. Vocabulary he had been comfortable with required reviewing. The flow of the language, the easy rhythm that had been building in month 6 and 7, was slower now. The stopping had cost him something, but not everything. The foundational work, grammar understanding, core vocabulary, the basic logic of English sentence structure, that was largely intact. It came back faster than it had come in the first time, because the first time it had been entirely new. This time it was familiar, being reactivated rather than built from scratch. He thought about what the stopping had not cost him, the reason for learning. Still there. He still wanted English. He still needed it in his work. He still saw the gap between where he was and where the language could take him. The discipline, still there. He had shown up for 7 months before. He could show up again. The knowledge of himself as a learner, what helped him, what didn't, what time of day was best, what type of content interested him. All of that knowledge, earned through 7 months of actual learning, was still his. He had stopped. He had lost some ground, but he had started from more than nothing. He wrote in his notebook, back after 11 months. Some rust. Core is intact, starting from experience, not from zero. The stopping cost momentum, not foundation. Daily English sentences. Repeat after me. The foundation is intact. The stopping did not destroy it. I am reactivating, not rebuilding from scratch. Familiar things come back faster than new ones. That is the gift of experience. I still have the reason, the discipline, the self-knowledge. Some rust is real. Everything important is still here. Starting from experience is not the same as starting from zero. The stopping cost momentum. It did not cost the foundation. Lesson 2, the different second attempt. 3 weeks back, Danny noticed that his second attempt felt different from his first, not better in terms of English level. The rust was still clearing. His speaking was still slower than it had been at month 7, but different in terms of how he was approaching it. The first attempt had been ambitious. He had set large goals. He had imagined quick fluency. He had studied in long, intense sessions when motivated and barely at all when not. The second attempt, without consciously planning it this way, was calmer. He studied 20 minutes every morning. Not more when he felt good, not less when he felt tired. Just 20 minutes. Steady. Unremarkable. Every day. He did not think about fluency. He thought about today's session. He did not worry about the warehouse conversation. He did not rehearse what he should have said or what he would say next time. He just studied the content in front of him, the words being presented, the structures being practiced, present, calm, specific. He thought about why the first attempt had ended with that warehouse conversation feeling so devastating, because he had been expecting perfection. 7 months of study and still a stumbled answer. It had felt like evidence of failure. But 7 months of study was not supposed to produce perfection. It was supposed to produce improvement. And improvement, real, genuine, significant improvement, had been there in that notebook. He had just not seen it that way. He wrote in his notebook, second attempt is calmer, smaller, more patient. I think the first attempt taught me how to do the second one right. Daily English sentences. Repeat after me. Second attempt. Calmer, smaller, more patient, better. 20 minutes every morning. Steady and unremarkable. Right. I think about today's session, not about fluency. The first attempt taught me how to do the second one. I am present in the lesson, not rehearsing past conversations. Calm and specific beats, ambitious and inconsistent every time. I am learning how to learn. That is worth the earlier stopping. Lesson 3, the conversation that completed the circle. 5 months after finding his notebook, Danny had a conversation. Not planned, not practiced, not in a controlled setting where he felt ready. A delivery driver arrived at the logistics company. International. His navigation had taken him to the wrong entrance. He was slightly frustrated, slightly lost, and he spoke in English when he came inside. He addressed Danny directly. "Excuse me, I need loading bay 7. My system brought me to the wrong side." Danny looked at him. The warehouse conversation from 18 months ago arrived in his memory for 1 second. He let it pass. He answered, "Loading bay 7, go back to the main road, take the second right, and follow the signs to the loading area. Bay 7 is on the left." The driver looked at him, nodded. "Perfect, thank you." He left. Danny stood still for a moment. That was it. Not dramatic, not a long conversation, just a clear, helpful, complete answer to a direct question in English, without stumbling, without the heat in his face, without someone turning away to find a more comprehensible speaker. He thought about the warehouse conversation 18 months ago, about the answer that had not come out, about the 11 months of silence that had followed, and he thought about 5 months of quiet, 20-minute mornings, which had led here, to this moment, to the answer that came out right. He wrote in his notebook, "Loading bay 7, answered clearly, complete sentence." He said, "Perfect." 5 months of trying again built that answer. The circle is complete. Daily English sentences. Repeat after me. The answer came out clearly this time. 5 months built that. I let the old memory pass. I answered the new question. Perfect. One word that closed 18 months of doubt. Trying again produced what stopping never could have. The circle is complete. The difficult conversation is answered, not dramatic, just right. That is enough. That is everything. 5 months of quiet mornings built this one clear moment. Lesson 4. 1 year back. What the second attempt built. 1 year after finding the notebook, Danny sat and counted. 347 sessions in 1 year. He had missed 18 days, illness, travel, 2 weeks where life had been genuinely too full, but 347 mornings of 20 minutes. He thought about what that had built. His English was now noticeably beyond where it had been when he had stopped, beyond month 7 of the first attempt, into territory he had not reached before. He could follow English content at natural speed, podcasts, news, professional videos with genuine comprehension. He could write a full professional email without pausing to translate any part of it. He had spoken English on 4 separate occasions at work, all of them clearly, none of them with the stumbling that had ended his first attempt. And he had applied last month for a coordinator role at an international logistics firm, a role that required English communication daily. He had gotten an interview. He thought about the 11 months of silence, about the notebook in the drawer, about the morning he had found it and stood deciding whether to put it back. He thought about the courage it had taken to open it instead, not the courage of a first attempt, the harder courage of the second. He wrote in his notebook, 1 year back, 347 sessions. International role interview next week. The courage to try again produced all of this. I am glad I opened the notebook. He looked at the last sentence. I am glad I opened the notebook. He closed it. He was ready for the interview. Daily English sentences. Repeat after me. 347 sessions, 1 year. The second attempt built this. The interview is next week. The second attempt made that possible. I'm glad I opened the notebook. The most important decision of the year. The courage to try again produced what the first attempt could not reach, beyond month 7 into new territory. The second attempt went further, 18 missed days, 347 sessions. That is the ratio. I close the notebook. I am ready. The second attempt prepared me. Final words. Open the notebook. Danny's story is simple. He stopped after one difficult conversation, 11 months of silence, a notebook in a drawer, and then one morning, the courage to open it. Not the excitement of a new beginning, something quieter and stronger. The deliberate decision to try again, despite knowing what stopping had felt like. And 1 year later, 347 sessions, a conversation answered clearly in a warehouse, an international job interview. Not because the second attempt was magic, because the courage to try again was. Maybe you have stopped. Maybe once, maybe several times. Maybe there is a notebook somewhere, or a bookmarked course, or a downloaded app, or a goal that has been waiting that you have not returned to. I want to say one thing: open it. Not with excitement. You do not need excitement. With the quieter thing, the deliberate thing, the courage that knows the risk and tries anyway. Because the second attempt is not starting over. It is starting from everything the first attempt taught you. And that is more powerful than any fresh beginning. Open the notebook, press play, try again. See you in the next one. Stay calm, stay brave, and have the courage to try again.